NBC News World Headquarters in New York. This is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Tuesday night. And we begin tonight with the historic milestone in this global fight against the coronavirus, the first Pfizer vaccine shots administered in the UK, and tonight news here in the US as well. That key 53-page report from the FDA on the Pfizer vaccine and their encouraging findings in just a moment here. It was early this morning in the UK, 90-year-old grandmother Margaret Keenan rolling up her sleeve and becoming the first person in the world to get that Pfizer vaccine. Hospital staff applauding and cheering her on what they're calling V-Day in Britain. Right behind Margaret, 81-year-old William Shakespeare. Yes, that's his name, another reason to make England smile today. Well, back here at home tonight, the FDA now set to give emergency authorization as early as Thursday. And tonight, the FDA has now released their own review, confirming it is effective and safe. And they shared this graph today of COVID cases among trial participants. The red line showing COVID cases among people who got the placebo, not the vaccine. The blue line, the rate of infection among those who actually got the vaccine, virtually flat there. So what's unfolding right now in the UK tonight, and what does it tell us about what could happen here and soon? ABC's James Longman leading us off tonight from London.
90-year-old grandmother Margaret Keenan making history. Tonight, the first of millions to get the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. The retired jewelry shop assistant wearing a Christmas shirt. Looking forward to the holiday after saying she spent a year in near isolation.
I'm spending Christmas with 4 of my family members, but I'm just looking forward to Christmas. Yes, I am.
They're calling it V-Day in Britain, the first wave of 800,000 shots just beginning. A storybook moment for 81-year-old William Shakespeare. Yes, he is named after the playwright, the second to receive the life-changing shot.
Groundbreaking, I think.
The US now on the verge of vaccine authorization. Tonight, the FDA releasing analysis of data from Pfizer showing how effective it's been in trials. Look at that blue line. It's the low rate of people who got COVID after getting the vaccine. Compare it with the red line. That's people on the placebo who got the virus. By the end of the study of those who got the real vaccine, only 8 got infected. In the placebo group, 162 got COVID. The FDA also saying they believe there's ample evidence the vaccine works and it's safe in people 16 and over. Pfizer optimistic that the agency will grant emergency use with a meeting in less than 48 hours.
We have answers, we believe, to every question that they will ask, and I think they will vote yes.
The vaccine could start arriving within 24 hours of a green light. In Seattle, they're training with new specialized freezers that can store the doses at the necessary 94 degrees below zero. The first priority going to nursing home residents and healthcare workers. Shannon Weatherly took part in the trial and experienced minor aches and fatigue, but she said it was well worth getting the shot.
If your fear is the needle itself, that's the least of our worries, because it's much worse to get COVID.
James Longman with us tonight outside a hospital in London where history was made today. And James, here in the U.S., as you reported, the FDA releasing that 53-page report today. It comes before their crucial meeting on Thursday.
Pfizer's vaccine offers Americans strong protection and is indeed up to 95% effective after 2 doses. The report also finds protection begins within 10 days of the first dose, and that it's effective no matter one's race, age, or weight. There are also no serious side effects beyond fever, fatigue, and muscle aches, most of which disappear within 2 days.
We will be able to vaccinate about 20 million people this month and another 20 to 25 million in January.
Hospitals around the country are now also on the front lines of administering the vaccine.
Our biggest worries are making sure that we don't lose any vaccine to storage issues. We want to get as much of that vaccine into people as possible.
Another challenge, complacency.
I know everybody's excited and we'd love to take our masks off by Valentine's Day, but that's just not going to happen.
Some continue to take their masks off, like this Christmas pageant in Missouri and this concert in Ohio. But Americans must be willing to take a vaccine. While a Pew Research survey found that 60% of Americans say they will, Dr. Anthony Fauci told Nora O'Donnell that that number needs to be higher.
If we could get 75 to 85% of the people in the United States vaccinated, we could crush this outbreak.
But keep in mind, today the White House Coronavirus Task Force warned about what the vaccine won't do. It will not reduce the speed of the spread of this virus, hospitalizations, or deaths until the 100 million Americans with underlying conditions are fully vaccinated. And that's not expected until late spring, Nora.
Hey, Jenna Diaz, thank you. President Trump's last-ditch effort to stay in office was dealt a decisive blow tonight by the Supreme Court. The court denied a bid to overturn election results in Pennsylvania. CBS's Ed O'Keefe is in Wilmington, Delaware tonight. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Nora. That's right. The Supreme Court blocking one of the president's last paths to possibly overturning the election results. The High Court, in a one-sentence decision, rejected attempts by the president's supporters in Pennsylvania to toss out most of the state's mail-in ballots. They argued they were unlawful. The decision comes as the president and the president-elect held dueling events today on the pandemic.
And I'm going to speak directly to the American people and say what I'm saying now. We need your help.
President-elect Joe Biden today laying out his three-point plan to fight the pandemic as soon as he enters office, urging people to wear masks for 100 days, getting kids safely back to school, and carrying out 100 million COVID vaccinations.
100 million COVID vaccine shots into the arms of the American people in the first 100 days.
Mr. Biden warned the current administration's vaccination plan will fall short without additional funding.
There's a real chance that after an early round of vaccinations, the effort will slow and stall.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, who Biden has tapped as his chief medical advisor, helped devise the new plan and gave the president-elect credit for leaving politics out of it.
I believe, as you do, that in the fight against this pandemic, we must lead with science.
Fauci skipped a vaccine summit hosted by President Trump today, which featured no representatives from vaccine manufacturers. And members of the incoming Biden administration, who will handle much of the distribution, also were not invited.
Every American who wants the vaccine will be able to get the vaccine.
The White House has already hosted 10 holiday parties, with 10 more in the works, some with more than 200 people. Last Friday, the president's lawyer, Jenna Ellis, attended one of the parties inside the White House. And today, we confirmed Ellis has COVID-19.
Why are you modeling a different behavior to the American people than what your scientists tell us?
Well, they're Christmas parties, and frankly, we've reduced the number very substantially, as you know.
Today, the president hosting a summit at the White House to take credit for COVID vaccines. It comes 24 hours after we learned the administration passed on buying any more than 100 million doses from Pfizer. Now, Pfizer may not be able to provide more doses to the U.S. before June. Today, Trump signing an executive order saying doses obtained by the U.S. should go to Americans first. But on GMA this morning, even the head of the Trump administration's Operation Warp Speed couldn't explain what it means.
Frankly, I don't know. And frankly, I'm staying out of this. I can't comment. I literally don't know.
But you're the chief science advisor for Operation Warp Speed.
Our work is rolling. We have plans. We feel that we can deliver the vaccines as needed. So I don't know exactly what this order is about.
Now, members of the Biden team were not invited to that White House summit today, and when asked why not, President Trump reverted back to his false claims about the election, insisting that he won several swing states and saying it's not clear who the next president will be. Of course, that is not true, and it is clear Joe Biden will be the next president. David.
All right, Mary Bruce.
You know, Susan, today was really dominated at the White House with this vaccine summit, which no matter what side you're on, is really impressive as far as the logistics to be able to hit this mark before the end of the year. And the question is whether President Trump is going to get credit for it.
Well, President Trump tried to take credit for today, and it is a huge achievement. It's an achievement for the administration, for the scientists involved, for the companies. It's something that we're all grateful for. But it was really striking when you contrasted kind of a split screen today where you had President Trump talking about the success of the vaccine, great days ahead in the spring. You had Joe Biden almost simultaneously unveiling his health team and talking about the difficult weeks ahead in December, in January, and February, before most Americans will have gotten the vaccine. And while the number of coronavirus cases continues to rise and rise, the death toll just gets bigger. His focus is on bracing people for tough times. President Trump's focus was on taking credit, deservedly so, for the vaccines.
You know, Guy, speaking of that, the split...
Tonight, the moment the world has been waiting for, the first shots given of a clinically approved COVID vaccine. A 90-year-old grandmother making history, the very first person to receive Pfizer's vaccine inside the hospital for what the UK is calling V-Day. Healthcare workers lining up there as the U.S. still awaits emergency use approval. But could that approval come this week? The countdown and the FDA's first report on Pfizer's vaccine, the effectiveness after just the first of 2 shots, and how the White House is responding to a report it turned down an offer to buy millions more doses. Hospitals at the breaking point as the U.S. tops 15 million cases, ICU beds running out, a field hospital activated in a parking garage. President-elect Joe Biden's new vaccine pledge, 100 million doses in his first 100 days, but warns of challenges. The Army investigation and the dramatic action taken today after a Fort Hood soldier was brutally murdered. Our year-long NBC News investigation into prescriptions by mail, what we found, and could it be putting lives at risk? And the disturbing new FBI warning on those Ring and Nest cameras.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, and now it finally begins. Through the pain, loss, and tears of the worst days of the pandemic, tonight we're now on what most experts believe is the long road back from the pandemic. It starts in the UK, where the first vaccinations are underway of a clinically proven COVID vaccine, the same vaccine that could be in use here in the U.S. sometime this month. And it comes on the day we learn that vaccine may be far more effective than we imagine. There's a lot to cover. Let's begin with Richard Engel with the developing news from London.
At 6:31 this morning, a grandmother in a donated Christmas sweater made history. 90-year-old Margaret Keenan became patient A, the first person in the world to receive a clinically tested and proven COVID vaccine.
It was fine. It was fine. I wasn't nervous at all.
The second recipient was 81-year-old William Shakespeare, no relation to the bard.
Groundbreaking, I think. It could make a difference to our lives from now on, couldn't it?
At around 70 hospitals across the UK today, the counterattack against the coronavirus began. British officials have declared this V-Day for Vaccination Day, evocative of the victorious VE and VJ days of World War II.
It's been such a tough year for so many people, and it makes you proud to be British.
The nurse who gave the first shot, May Parsons, told me this is the start of a new chapter.
People hopefully will get all their normal lives back. I think that's a good thing to look forward to.
They're starting off slowly. At this hospital alone, they're planning to do just around 100 vaccinations today, but then to ramp that up to 400 vaccinations a day next week. And keep it going 7 days a week.
Keenan, who worked in a jewelry shop up until just 4 years ago, is doing well and has a message to others.
I say go for it. Go for it because it's free and it's the best thing that's ever happened.
The road ahead is long, but today the UK and patient A left the starting blocks without a stumble. Richard Engel, NBC News, Coventry.
I'm Keir Simmons in Wales, hard hit by COVID, where one challenge will be reaching vulnerable people and their caregivers. This is what you'll soon see in America. Small community centres transformed into vaccine hubs. At the back of this basketball court are lines of vaccination cubicles. People are being ushered in one by one for their vaccine. And then you are given this immunisation card. Some patients will need reassurance. They must return for a second dose. Any reservations? Any worries?
No, you always have thoughts, don't you? But I've just come to the conclusion it's better to have it than not to have it.
They all get a moment's rest to check for adverse reactions, like this frontline doctor. You've just come from a night shift. Yeah. After all the politics and the vaccine science, finally, it's about the people. Still, tonight, they've asked us not to disclose the location of this centre to prevent too many people from coming. Keir Simmons, NBC News, Wales.
So things happening in the UK and here in the US, an FDA review suggests the Pfizer vaccine may even be more effective than first thought, as an FDA outside panel prepares to meet Thursday on whether to approve the vaccine here. Tom Costello has more.
36 hours ahead of the outside advisory panel's meeting, the FDA says its review of the data suggests Pfizer's COVID vaccine is very promising. While everyone needs 2 shots, the vaccine was 50% effective after the first dose, 95% effective after the second. and effective across all age and ethnic groups, even for people with underlying conditions like obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure. But will there be enough vaccine? Pfizer says it can't ship more doses to the U.S. until next summer because other countries bought up supplies first. The White House passed up a chance to buy more last summer because, says President Trump's former FDA chief, the U.S. is counting on 6 different vaccines and could not place a big bet on just one.
They want to spread those bets. I think they're betting that more than one vaccine is going to get authorized.
Scott Gottlieb, also on the board at Pfizer. Pfizer's CEO today said Americans' vaccine skepticism only undermines public health.
Have been severely politicized, particularly in the U.S. That makes people confused, and they don't know who to believe and what to believe.
Despite fewer shipments, President Trump said other vaccine makers will ensure every American can get vaccinated by this spring, promising he will take action if enough doses aren't available.
If we have any problems, we will be instituting the Defense Production Act, and we will make sure that we don't have any problems.
President Trump also signed an executive order prioritizing Americans ahead of other countries, though it's not clear how enforceable or practical that is. Lester?
All right, Tom Costello tonight. And Tom, the numbers speak to the urgency. 15 million Americans have now contracted the virus. The drastic increase in serious cases is overwhelming medical centers everywhere. Miguel Almaguer has more.
Still too early to know if California's lockdown will help. Tonight, the state is shattering a record threatening to cripple its own healthcare system. Nearly 11,000 COVID hospitalizations. The unfolding crisis sparing no region. The average ICU at 90% capacity in states like New Mexico, North Dakota, Rhode Island, Texas, and Nevada.
There's definitely signs of fatigue.
In Reno, at Renown Health, they've put beds in a parking garage, but what they desperately need is staff.
There are requests for traveling nurses, but every hospital throughout the nation are making the same requests.
With daily infections climbing since March, the U.S. added 1 million new cases in just the first week of December. During that same span, nearly 16,000 Americans lost their lives, the deadliest week since April. In Arizona, experts warn by Christmas the state could see a humanitarian crisis. In New Mexico, crisis standards of care could soon be implemented, allowing providers to ration care for patients more likely to survive.
We don't have a magic bullet right now. There's a vaccine coming, which is important, but it's not here yet.
There is some good news. Doctors now know how to better treat COVID patients, often leading to a shorter stay in the hospital. Lester?
That's certainly good to hear, Miguel.
Years. And when the pandemic first hit, they closed their doors. When they reopened, business picked back up with some donations.
Busier and busier, but no more extra money. When I quit for about a month and a half, a couple months ago, and then since I've come back, though, I've gotten a lot more donations, or people will take the 4 cents, or because they know how much it's in need and how little we get paid.
In Iowa, redemption businesses pay customers 5 cents a bottle or can, then return those items to the distributor for 6 cents apiece, pocketing a 1 cent profit. And that margin hasn't changed since the bottle bill was passed in the late 1970s. And hundreds of redemption businesses have shut down in the 17 years of the corner can redemption.
Yeah, I think when we started there was over 300, and now we're down to about 100. So yeah, most of them, like some of them just retired because they got older, and nobody wants to take it over. The money, they think it sounds good, but then when they start doing it, it's a lot more work.
Owner Tony Ginger has 3 employees and also owns her building. She also noticed new customers from surrounding cities and says it's the customers that keep her going.
Well, you don't do it to be rich, but I love my customers, and I think that's why I came back and then there's such a need.
Now, I have spoken with some other can redemption businesses here in Northwest Iowa today, and they've all echoed that since they've reopened during the pandemic, they have been pretty busy. In Sheldon, Iowa, I'm Jacob Sersosimo, Dakota News Now.
Well, outside, our warmer than normal streak continues. How much longer can we keep this up? Phil's first look forecast is coming up after this.
The FDA. Regardless of efficacy, safety, whatever else standards, as long as the FDA approved it, we agreed to buy it, as long as they could deliver by the end of March. They refused to commit to any other production or delivery by a time certain. So we did a $500 million dose option on top of that that we could then negotiate and execute against, because I'm certainly not going to sign a deal with Pfizer giving them $10 billion to buy vaccine that they could deliver to us 5-10 years hence. That doesn't make any sense. And that's on top of course, the 5 other companies that we secured 100 million doses from each. In early October, again, before we saw phase 3 data, we commenced negotiations with Pfizer to do one of those options on vaccines. They still resisted giving us any date by which they would do it. We're making progress. We have made it clear, though, we will use every power of the Defense Production Act to ensure the American people's needs are satisfied, and I'm very confident that we will get the vaccine we need and want from Pfizer.
I'm asking you just very quickly, Mr. Secretary, because the optics of it, what it looks like is that even with all the lives, people's lives at stake, the administration decided the money was not worth it.
No, Judy, that's actually completely inaccurate. Remember, this was back in July. They didn't have a vaccine. They had a phase 1 vaccine that hadn't even entered into phase 3, and we gave a guaranteed $2 billion purchase of 100 million doses, Judy, and we secured a 500 million dose option. And at the beginning of October, before even seeing phase 3 data, we've been negotiating with Pfizer to get them nailed down on a date by which they would commit delivery. Now, I think we're making progress.
Well,
Pfizer's negotiating in the media. That's not appropriate, and they know better.
Let me ask you this. By what date do you believe all Americans who need a vaccine have a vaccine?
Yeah, we believe between Pfizer, Moderna, and the other vaccines that we have invested in and are bringing forward, we believe that in the second quarter of next year, there's enough vaccine for every American who would like to be vaccinated to get vaccinated.
So that's by the end of June, right?
During the second quarter, right. And this will be progressive. This is not a single moment in time event, as you know, Judy. We'll have 20 million people vaccinated by the end of just this month. And we had this vaccine summit today with a bipartisan group of governors, our retail chain pharmacies, our distributors, FedEx and UPS, to demonstrate just how well-oiled this machine is to get vaccines out there. Our governors said they'd have 100,000 people vaccinated within 24 to 48 hours.
Well, that's what I want to ask you. What exactly is the plan for dividing up the vaccine by state, and where does the federal responsibility end and that of state and local leaders begin to make sure that everybody who needs a vaccine gets it?
Yeah, so it's been very transparent. We are allocating the vaccine as the governors requested on a per capita basis, population 18 and over in the states. We buy the vaccine, we pay for the distribution of the vaccine. Through us and private payers, we pay for the administration of the vaccine. We ask the governors, because they know the lay of the land, to tell us where they want the vaccine shipped. And we direct the shipment either directly from Pfizer in the case of their vaccine, or through McKesson, the world-leading distribution company, in the case of the Moderna vaccine. It then goes to CVS, Walgreens, a hospital, a community health center, a public health lab, whatever the governors have according to their plans. They're almost like air traffic controllers within their state.
I'm asking in part because what we've heard from President-elect Biden is that his team has not seen a clear plan for distributing the vaccine from the place where it gets shipped into the country, from where it's manufactured, into people's arms.
I'm sorry, it's just not true, Judy. We're incredibly transparent. I do with General Perna and Dr. Slawi an hour-long press briefing every single week where we walk through in minute detail, down to dry ice levels, how this is being distributed from the manufacturing plant to the distributor, to where the governors have told us, how we have kitted 100 million kits at McKesson of syringes and needles and PPE to have that happen. Every item is microplanned. Judy, this is the United States Army that is planning this out with the nation's leading distributors and shipping companies. As they say, this is what we do. We are using the tried and true tested system that gets hundreds of millions of vaccines and flu vaccines out every single year. Don't invent a new system when you have one that works.
Yeah, I'm also...
I think that would work, and I haven't heard that.
Well, it sounds like you have some pretty good suggestions because you understand your business very well, and it's too bad that they didn't talk to more restaurant owners about, and you're obviously very willing to compromise in a lot of ways. This is Governor Gretchen Whitmer talking about your plight. Watch.
To our small business owners, I want you to know I understand the incredible sacrifices that you've made this year in order for us to help save people's lives. And I appreciate you. But there is more work we need to do to protect one another.
Is that enough for you? And how much longer can you stay closed and have your business survive, Sam?
Well, I understand how difficult not only her decision is, but all health department officials, all leaders, around the world. So I'm not taking that lightly. I understand the severity of what's going on, but I think there could be a better compromise or a little bit more of a moderate decision with regard to letting the restaurants stay open with some strict regulations and kind of have the best of both worlds.
How long can you stay closed, or and keep your restaurant, keep your business?
Well, right now, I don't have an exact time frame. We're trying to do a little bit of carry out. It doesn't work that well for us, so if it comes December 20th and we open up, that would be good. It just, for some reason, seems unlikely to open up the week before Christmas and New Year's Eve, because technically that's the busiest time of the year. So,
absolutely.
I don't know at this point if it's going to extend it to the January.
Feel for you, Sam. We all want to be in restaurants and bars all the way through the holidays, so we hope we're near the end of this thing. Good luck to you, sir, and thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. Good to have you here. So joining me now is Alex Berenson, former New York Times reporter and author of Unreported Truths about COVID-19 and lockdowns. Alex, you hear Sam talk about running his business, and he's more than willing to make adjustments, but you make an excellent point that we've sort of tried the lockdown thing in the past, and now we still find ourselves where we are, right?
Well, I hear him talking, and my blood boils. You're asking him to try to figure out some solutions to a problem that he can't solve, okay? And masks, if they do anything, are extremely marginal, okay? So the idea that somehow, because it's a restaurant, you're taking your mask off. People
are going to hear that, Alex, and they're going to freak out because the mask, credo is so entrenched.
They should read the booklet, okay? So when you began this segment, you talked about this idea of penance, and I was really struck by that. Mm-hmm. That we are punishing people, and there's no, as you said, everybody wants to be out. It's Christmas, it's the holiday season. People go out with their friends, they go out with their families, and half the country is too terrified to leave its homes, and they want to punish the other half that actually understand the science here and are not going to be terrified of an illness that primarily hurts the extremely elderly and extremely sick. Okay, that does not mean we shouldn't try to protect those people, but to say that the rest of us have to stay inside and be afraid and try to terrify us is wrong. Yeah. And I am getting upset about it because, a few days ago, I got an email from a woman. She said, I had a clothing boutique. I tried to make it work with the lockdowns. I had to close it in September. These days, I stay in bed crying when my kids are stuck at home, which they are a lot of the time. I get in the car and drive around to nowhere because I don't want them to see me crying, except the other day I drove past a gun shop and I had to make sure that I didn't go in. Okay, this is what we are doing to people, and we're doing it for no reason at all except to make a bunch of people who think they're in charge feel better about the decisions they're making.
And it can't help.
But as Trump starts to fade from the scene, as his challenges get laughed out of court, and his rhetoric grows more and more desperate and irrelevant, the problem of Trump, the problem he represents, is only coming into clearer focus. Because Donald Trump was always a product of the GOP base, a person who channeled their most feral instincts in order to gain power. They matched his own feral instincts. But he didn't create that base. He didn't create the energy within it. And as he himself recedes from view, recedes from our attention, we are seeing just how deep the rot is inside the Republican Party. The modern GOP isn't just detached from reality. Much of it is willfully opposed to popular sovereignty and democracy. Many of its leaders are continuing to pursue dangerous delusions that are right now, day after day, hour after hour, indeed minute after minute, getting people killed. In Arizona, this is just a tour of Republican activity over the last few days. The chair of the state party, Kelly Ward, she's somewhat infamous. Mitch McConnell famously called her Chemtrail Kelly. Kelly Ward, who now runs the party in Arizona with the support of many of her GOP colleagues, told the state's Republican governor to shut the hell up after he suggested the election wasn't stolen. And the Arizona Republican Party's official Twitter account is calling for people to die for Trump's cause. Tweeting someone with the Twitter name Stop the Steal, who said he is willing to give his life for this fight, and adding he is, are you? In South Dakota, where 1 in every 68 people in the state tested positive in just the past 2 weeks, that Republican Governor, Kristi Noem, is effectively ignoring the virus, opting this weekend to travel to Texas, to leave her state to ride a horse and hoist a flag at a rodeo. As if it's 2019 and there's no pandemic at all. As if people aren't dying by the dozen every day in her state. As if it doesn't have one of the highest per capita death rates in the world right now. In Texas, the Republican Attorney General there, Ken Paxton, who's currently under investigation and has multiple former staffers filing whistleblower complaints about illegal activity. These are former diehard conservative Republican staffers of his who say the guy is not on the level. That guy, Ken Paxton, who you see there, he is now suing 4 states that didn't vote the way he liked, seeking to have the Supreme Court block them from voting in the Electoral College. Basically, Texas just saying to Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, you voted the wrong way. You don't get to vote for president. That's the official position of the Texas AG. This kind of thing is widespread. Numerous state legislators have called on Republicans in Congress not to accept their own state's electors. 64 of them in Pennsylvania, writing a letter asking their congressional delegation to throw out their own state's electoral votes. Think about that. Those are the same votes that got them elected. It's the same people voting in the same election that gets all these people. Just today, Republican congressman named Alex Mooney sought to condemn the handful of elected Republicans with the temerity to acknowledge that Donald Trump lost. And here's the thing, it's not just backbenchers and it's not just the sort of most extreme members of the caucus. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senator Roy Blunt, House Republican Leader Kevin McCarthy today blocked the inaugural committee from recognizing Biden's win. Senator Ron Johnson, we know him well, he used his chairmanship of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee for a dangerous circus act today, inviting an anti-vaxxer and others who reject mainstream science to join him in spewing dangerous nonsense to the public as the pandemic kills and kills and kills some more.
It's certainly worse than the flu, but is it that much worse? I think the root cause of our problem is just closed minds.
Is it that much worse than the flu? In a bad flu year, we lose 60,000 people. We're knocking on the door of 300,000. So, yeah, it's the deadliest year in American history. More than 2,200 Americans are dying of the virus every day. 130 Americans died in just the 90 minutes of disinformation that Ron Johnson hosted on the Hill today. But that's the thing. All those people I listed, Kelly Ward, Ken Paxton, Ron Johnson, Roy Blunt, Mitch McConnell, none of them are Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not the issue. Everyone wants to pretend that it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the problem. He's intimidating these people. That's a misunderstanding. The issue, the problem, is not going to go away when he does. And also, he's not going to go away because he's Donald Trump. But this is it. I mean, as we head into the Biden era, in the midst of the worst winter of our lives, in the midst of the pandemic, the #1 challenge to American democracy right now is what to do about this faction of the country. What to do about a faction of the country that seems intent on destroying everything in their path.